become emotionally burnt out or just emotionally really, really tender. Making ourselves vulnerable by caring for what's happening out in the world is so important, but it's just as important to recognize when it's time to nourish ourselves and refill our own cup. So join me today for a beautiful practice that will nourish you and that will give you a safe space to be vulnerable, but also to protect yourself and to gather yourself back towards yourself and connect with your own inner strength, so that you're ready to go out again and carry on caring in that beautiful, beautiful way that you do. Great, see you on the mat. So for today's sequence, you will need a few props, but it's things that you can find anywhere around your home. So you want to have a towel on hand, so a bath towel that you can fold up, and a yoga bolster. So if you don't have a yoga bolster, you can take 2 bed pillows and just stuff one bed pillow into the other, and ta-da! You've got your doubled up bed yoga bolster. And if you have a yoga block, fantastic. If you don't worry. This is your time to show off that really sexy intellectual book that you bought, that hardcover, thick book that maybe you never read, just like me, but that finally has a use to it. There we go. Okay, so bring that along. So those are the 3 main props that we'll be using today. If you want to have an extra blanket to cover yourself during the poses, to keep you nice and cozy and warm, do that. And if you would like something, if you would like extra padding for underneath your knees, we're going to be doing some butterfly pose, some butterfly poses with our legs. So if you want some pillows just to prop your knees up and give you an even deeper relaxation, go ahead and find those now as well. Remembering, as always, throughout the practice, even though it's a slow, tender, gentle process, please remember at all times to look after your body. And really, it's a brilliant opportunity for us to strengthen the connection between the mind and the body. And really what that allows us to do is just to be more sensitive to what's happening in the body, and then to make a choice that is wiser and more nurturing for the body. Okay, so perhaps just taking care that we're not forcing anything too much, but at the same time that we're not running away from any challenges the moment it appears. For our first pose, we're going to get into fetal pose, so you can choose which side you want to be on. I'm going to lie on my left side, and I'm going to use my towel in this pose. So I will give you basic instructions about which props are useful in the different poses. But really feel free to experiment a little bit and kind of pad out and sort of add props in wherever you need to in order to feel as comfortable as you can. So coming into fetal pose, that's the one where we lie on our side and we have our knees bent and so almost like tucked into our chests, and then coming to lie down on your side. You can rest your head on your arms, so you can have your arms stretched out or bent underneath you. So it's kind of the one that where you curl up maybe once you feel sleepy and you're getting ready to go to bed. So I like to put a towel or a pillow between my legs, just to create a little bit of ease on the side of my hip, the outside of the leg. And once you have your position, maybe inviting your knees to just come a little bit closer to your chest so we can create this nice length in the lower back. Bringing a slight tuck of the chin into your chest. And really bringing the sense of protection and safety. So when the body comes into this pose, it's a very soothing pose, because naturally this is the pose that our body takes when we want to protect ourselves, or when we're being nurtured, or sort of originally the pose that we come into in the womb, sort of before we're born. And hence the name, the fetal pose. It's just a little bit of science and yoga. When science and yoga come together, oh, that is just my favorite. So
maybe just starting to tune into the breath while you're here. Noticing where you feel the breath. Noticing if you're holding anything, if you're holding any tension, or if you're holding your body in any particular way, and just invite that to release and let go. As you breathe in and out, you might want to send the breath into the side ribs. And noticing what the movement of the side ribs are doing in response to this breath. You might notice that they're lifting up and stretching outwards. And on the out breath, you might notice that they relax and fall back into the body. And just being mindful that although we've tucked ourselves into this cozy shape, that we still leave space for our breath in the front of the body. You might want to start these first couple of poses with closed eyes, or just bring a gentle gaze to one point, an unfocused gaze, not really seeing anything, but rather tuning the senses into the body, looking inwardly. So feeling free throughout the practice to close your eyes. It might be that you want to close your eyes when you finally get into the pose, or even moving your way into the pose. Because we're taking so much visual information and it's so stimulating on the brain, it can be quite an interesting experience to close the eyes. It can be quite challenging, but it can also be really, really enlightening. You close the eyes and you block out all the visual information. It allows you to start picking up on all the other information and signals that your body is giving you. So whatever choice you take with your eyes, open or closed, is maybe inviting a sense of playfulness or friendliness when you do it. And then if you have any props between your legs, just removing them out of the way and getting ready to transition into our next pose. And doing so very gently and slowly by pressing the top hand into the floor as you lift yourself up into a seated position. And maybe using the bottom hand to carry on helping you move upward. And coming into a comfortable seated position. You might find that you want to sit on something. So for example, I'm going to bring my towel. I'm just going to rest it under my hips just to give them a little bit of lift. So if your hips are tight, if your legs are tight, this is a lovely way just to bring a bit of ease into the pose. You can rest your hands on your legs. Just noticing whether they've gone palm down or perhaps the back of the hands have come down against the legs. Without any judgments, just observing, just noting what's happened. And taking a moment now in our sitting pose to really ground into the floor, to notice the contact and the connection with this solid, unmoving floor and earth underneath us. And what parts of your body are currently making contact with the floor? Perhaps edges of your feet, the buttocks, and the sitting bones,
maybe spaces or areas on the legs. Wherever you notice those contact points, sending the attention into those contact points, and maybe exploring a little deeper, or exploring the detail of that sensation. Noticing where on the foot you feel the contact, and what that contact feels like. What are the messages that your body is sending back to you? You might notice thoughts starting to pop up, or maybe thoughts arising, and just acknowledging that those thoughts are arising, and then letting them go, as if we're watching clouds arrive and then watching clouds go. Not getting attached, not holding on, not getting involved. And also using this opportunity to notice any judgments that might be arising. Judgments of needing to hurry up or needing to slow down. Judgments and questions of whether you're doing this right or wrong. See if you can let that go and rather approach the experience just with a sense of curiosity, as if you don't have a clue what's going to happen and you're just sitting back and watching. Feeling the sense of grounding as your lower body sinks into the floor. Really noticing what this grounding, solid sensation feels like, so that later throughout the practice you can keep coming back to it. And then whatever position your hands have been in, bringing the palms of the hands onto the knees and bringing the chest through the shoulders, so pressing the chest forward, maybe even lifting the gaze to open up the throat, opening up the whole front of the body, opening up the chest and the heart space, and just letting the shoulders soften away from the ears. And then moving in a circular fashion, come to the opposite position where your chest is pressed back, so your heart is pressed into your spine. And maybe you're even leaning back in your hands, creating a kind of seated cat position. And then curling your way around back to the front to bring the chest out and through the shoulders. Softening the shoulders, opening the front of the body, opening the throat area, the heart space. And keeping a lift and a length in the spine and the chest. And then moving around again to the back. Curling the spine, pressing the spine away behind you. And breathing in long deep breaths into the back of the body, opening the back of the body, feeling the skin stretching open as you breathe in, breathing in all along the spine. And then curling your way around one more time. And doing a few of these now in your own time, so a bit of free flowing movement. And after you've done a couple in one direction, switching direction. And see if you can play a little bit with your breath as well. See if you can move with your breath. Maybe inhale, opening the chest, and on the exhale, squeezing back. In. And finishing your last round before coming back to stillness. Pausing for a moment, just scanning through the body to see what impact this has had on the body. And now we're going to move on to a little bit of self-massage. So touch is really, really important in life, both as children and as babies, as we're developing, but even as adults. So touch is extremely nourishing and it's very, very soothing. So We're going to bring our hands to our feet. Now, this might be new to you. This might even feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit weird. So just give it a try and see if you can see it as an experiment. So, I'm not asking you to do it every day for the rest of your lives, but see if you can maybe just try it out. So you can choose what kind of touch you're going to use. So you could use firm squeezes. You could just very gently run your fingertips along the different body parts. So all we're doing is we're just stimulating the sensory nerves in our entire bodies, starting from the toes, and we're going to move our way all the way up to the head. So massaging, sort of either touching, running the fingers gently, or squeezing, moving the hands up the shins, over the calves, finding these areas that usually don't get very much attention or much love, and just giving them a good old love squeeze. Moving up to the knees, and as you're moving, if you notice if you get lost in your thoughts, or that your thoughts get really loud, just bring your attention back to the sensation. So rather than just going through the motions, actually bring your attention to the sensations to notice really what it feels like. So moving up to the legs, could move to the inner legs. And remember, you're at home, so you've got license to sort of move in whatever way is comfortable for you, and to touch whatever is comfortable for you. And then moving up to the sides of the hips, maybe with a flat hand, giving those a rub. The sides of the body, and then taking the flat hands and moving from the sides all the way down the legs to the knees. And again, and noticing what this feels like. Oh, it's one of my favorites. You might even want to go all the way down the legs. And, oh, that's lovely. And then you might want to give your tummy a rub as well. It doesn't matter what shape your tummy is. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Maybe just give it a little rub like, I'm so hungry. And then moving up to the arms. And you can do them at the same time, but maybe let's do one at a time. So rubbing down, and then giving them a good old squeeze as well. A squeeze, or like I said, you can just run your fingers gently along the body part. Down the hands, fingers, other hand, palm of the hand, wrist and lower arm, moving to the upper arm, and giving the shoulders a bit of a squeeze as well. And moving the hands up to the neck, so using the fingertips to massage the neck. And then just tapping the fingers over the tops of the head, all along the head. And then letting those fingers rain down the front of the face. And then reach your hands back, if this is possible. So just work with what your body's telling you today. Then you can reach your fingers through and grab kind of this thick ridge here. So this ridge that connects your shoulders to your neck, your trap muscle. And see if you can run your fingers over that. So just kind of pulling forward with your fingers. What I really like is the side that I'm massaging. I tilt my head to that side, and it softens the muscle a little bit, lets me get in a really good deep massage. And then tilt to the other and pull. And pull. I'm just going to do a few of these, maybe feeling how the muscle's starting to get warmed up. Lovely. And then bringing the fingertips to land gently on the shoulders and just doing a few shoulder rolls. So imagine you're making circles with your elbows and then reversing direction. Releasing the hands onto the knees. Just pausing for a moment, taking stock of what this feels like, of what sensations are coming up in your body. Seeing if you can bring a gentle awareness to your whole body. And then bringing your feet to touch gently, so the soles of the feet come to kiss and your knees fall out to the side in butterfly pose. So taking your feet as close or as far away as you need to. And with the hands, gently opening the feet up, gently pulling them open like a book, if it's within your practice today. And then lengthening your spine, lifting the chest, bending forward at the hips to fold forward gently, tuning into where you feel the stretch and the tension in your body as you do this. And maybe just playing a little bit back and forth to see where your edge is, where that boundary is between, challenging stretch and nope, this is too much. And when you're there, find stillness. And then you can just let your shoulders and your head and your arms all just release towards the ground as you hang forward over your legs. We're going to be here for a minute or so just noticing where in the body you feel this pose, so where you feel the stretching, maybe on the inside of the legs, the outside of the legs. And just scanning through and noticing how is your body responding to this. As you sit, just noticing the sensations in the body, the response of the body, perhaps tuning into the breath, noticing where you feel the breath in the body. Can you play with opening up the back of the body, opening the shoulder blades away from each other, and then letting them release and relax and come closer together again? And then wherever you are, using your hands on the ground, notice the contact of your hands with the ground, or perhaps if that's not within reach, your hands on your legs. And then slowly use your hands to walk your way up, back to a sitting position. And now we're going to move into a tabletop pose. So just notice if perhaps your mind has already jumped there. Maybe your mind is already in tabletop pose. So if that's the case, just bring it back. Bring it back to your movement right now, right here. So perhaps the knees on the ground and then the hands as they shift. So you might want to pop your knees onto a towel for this one. Just to soften it a little bit. So coming into a tabletop pose and just engaging the belly and just a little bit, just bringing the core in to press against the spine so that we're not sagging our spine forward. We still want to maintain a length and integrity in the spine. And then walking the hands forward a little bit as if we're like a cat going to do a bit of a stretch, tucking the back toes under and moving into a downward facing dog. So lifting the hips, maybe keeping the knees bent at first and stretching one leg first and then the other. So walking the dog out. Really walk those feet into the ground, so make your step really quite a strong one. Can be slow, make it very intentional. And then eventually coming to stillness, so either with your legs straight or with your legs a little bit bent. And then shift forward into a plank pose. Hold for a moment. and then shift back. Let's do that one more time. Shift forward and then back. And then sinking the heel, the left heel towards the ground, lift the right foot into a 3-leg dog before stepping your foot through between your hands. Coming into a low lunge. Drop the knee and see if you can walk the foot so that your right heel is underneath your right knee. Once you're here, seeing if you can bring the hands onto the floor if that's within your movement or your practice. Otherwise you can also just rest your hands on your knee. We're keeping the chest lowered. So keeping a length in the spine but folding forward from the hips. So making any adjustments that you need to make and then finding stillness in your pose. Maybe lifting the gaze a little to keep an opening in the front of the chest. Now, preparing to move into the next posture, imagine that there's a zip between your legs and you're squeezing, or so you're zipping up the top two, or the top of your 2 legs together. Imagine kind of like this squeezing motion between your upper legs. Engage your core as we lift the arms up nice and strong. So here you might want to keep the arms stretched up. You might want to keep the arms in cactus pose. You could even keep the arms and the hips for a little bit of stability. So wherever you choose to be, opening up the chest, lengthening the spine, and checking in with the ribs that they haven't flared out, so bringing the ribs in a little bit. If your arms are stretched up to the ceiling, seeing if you can invite some length into the arms, but a slight softening in the tops of the shoulders. And feel the strength of this posture. Notice where you're grounding. Notice the contact with the floor. Notice the strength of this pose. And don't forget to breathe. And then lowering the arms, bringing the left hand to the inside of the right foot. Okay? So you're bringing the opposite hand to the inside of the opposite foot. And then stretch the top hand up away towards the ceiling for a nice twist. And then drop that hand down and bring it to the inside of the front foot. So now both hands on the inside of the front foot. And invite the hips to release and sink down towards the foot, towards the floor. So walk that front foot out and then point those toes out at about a 45-degree angle or so, so pointing them away from the body. You might find that your knee drops out a little bit, which is fine. Allowing those hips to just sink gently towards the ground. And then pushing into the hands to bring your hips slightly back, walk that front foot into center, shift the hips back and come into a half splits. Again, using your poses wherever you need to. So if you find you're a little out of balance or you can't reach the floor, maybe using the hands on the hips or using a chair or sort of a prop close by if needed. And then very mindfully moving your right leg back so that you come back into tabletop position. Beautiful. Pause for a moment. Notice the pose. Then walk the hands a little bit forward away from you. You can even bring them a little bit wider to just bring some ease into the shoulders. Tuck the back toes under and lift into downward facing dog. Shift forward into plank. Lift the hips, roll back into downward facing dog. One more time. Plank. and then back. Rooting the right heel towards the ground, lift the left leg, and then step forward between the hands, coming into a low lunge on the other side. So you can keep the back toes tucked or extended. And then once again, or either keeping the hands on the ground or perhaps keeping them on your knee, whichever one you choose, just checking that you have length in the spine. You don't want to be crunching into this. So wherever you are, you want to be able to lift your chest up. Make sure that you've got space for the lungs. And you'll know if you have space for your lungs or not by whether you can breathe or not. Now, bringing in that sense of zipping up, of tension between the upper legs, engaging the core and getting ready to lift the arms up. Once again, raising up to the sky, perhaps cactus arms or hands on the hips. Taking long, deep breaths as we lift the chest, opening up the sides of the body, but also creating a sense of groundedness and heaviness in our legs. Bringing the right hand to the inside of the front foot, twisting open, lift that top hand up and away towards the ceiling. Now, bringing both hands to the inside of the front foot, and then walking that front foot out to the side, bringing the toes at a slight 45-degree angle, so angling them away from the body, and then letting the hips sink down towards the ground. So noticing if that left knee wants to fall out to the side, and that's fine, but not collapsing into it either. Walk that foot back to center as we shift the hips back to come into half runners, folding over the knee before eventually coming into all four position one more time. Lovely. Shift the hips back, coming into child's pose, stretch the hands away from you. You can keep the knees close together or keep them bring them nice and wide. Release the chest and the forehead to the ground and just enjoy this delicious chest opening stretch. This is a really, really great pose because it's really soothing, it's very calming. You kind of darken, so it will block out the light and sort of give a sense of coziness and protection to the front side of the body, but we're actually also opening the heart a little bit, which is great. So it's like a protected space where you can be open and vulnerable. Coming forward and removing a towel if it's been in your way. You might want to just keep it to the side where it's easy to get to. And then lower yourself all the way down to the ground. Stretch your left arm out away from you at shoulder height. And then roll over onto your left side. So we're coming into broken wing here. So just checking in what feels comfortable for you and where you can actually stretch to. Because you might find that your arm is quite stiff, so maybe you stop here. And if that's the case, really good to have a pillow so that you can actually just rest on your pillow and just create this gentle opening stretch in the front of the shoulder. Okay, I'm not going to do the pillow today. Your top leg is bent with the sole of the foot flat on the ground behind your leg or behind your extended leg, if that works for you. You could keep it in the front as well, just playing around with what works for you. So that back arm wants to be stretched out at shoulder height. So you might need to just check and see that your arm is going sort of perpendicular or sort of is still a direct line from your shoulder.
Your top hand can either be resting in front of your chest to help keep you balanced, keep you stable, or you could even reach behind you and bring even more opening to the front of the chest. So noticing if there's any discomfort or sense of tension arising in this pose. And if there is, just pause for a moment and notice what that feels like. Notice where you feel the discomfort. See if you can just kind of skirt around its edges and get a sense of what it feels like. Once you've explored a little bit, hopefully without any judgment, just without any labels, maybe of being weak or being sort of incapable of not being able to do this very well, you can just explore what's there and give yourself permission to just be there wherever you are. Also give yourself permission to back off a little bit if you need to. Knowing that it doesn't mean that you're weak or you can't do it. That's just where your body is right now. So seeing if we can let go of any stories that we tell ourselves about our bodies. As you breathe in, maybe feeling that front of the shoulder expanding and opening up. As we exhale, softening any tension in the rest of the body. And then using that top hand to keep us steady, very slowly rolling back over onto our bellies. Super, super, super slowly. Imagine you're just like a large mountain shifting in space. Being very gentle and kind to the body. And then slowly bringing that left arm in. Maybe just sitting upright for a moment, bringing a bit of movement, rolling the shoulder. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to change position so that I can see you, or you can see me. But staying on your belly, and this time stretching out the right arm away from your shoulder height. So you want it to look like this, so not far up and not far down. If it is very, very tight, then rather stay on your belly and just keep your arm up, and then slowly experiment with seeing how much you can roll up onto that side. Remember, there's no right or wrong way of doing yoga. There's no right or wrong way of... your yoga practice is unique to your body, so it needs to be... Your practice needs to fit your body and where your body's at. Yes, we want to challenge the body, and we want to stretch it. We're not just doing it, we're here with a purpose, but I also don't want to punish our bodies for not being what we expect them to be. So stretching that right arm up, out away from us, and then slowly rolling over onto the side, bringing the top leg to a bent knee with the sole of the foot pressing on the floor, gently resting on the floor. Once again, behind the outstretched leg or in front. And that outstretched leg, you can bend that outstretched leg as well. So just play around a bit. So the focus of this pose is on the upper body. So we want to maintain integrity in the upper body. The legs in this position also open the hips, give a sense of spaciousness in the pelvic area, in the hips and the side body. With that outstretched arm, just checking in to see what the hand's doing. So the hand, we want the palm facing down. fingertips resting on the floor, all 5 fingertips resting on the floor. Once again, sensing into where the discomfort is in the body and not diving straight into the discomfort, but also not running away from it. Just seeing what messages it has for you. So perhaps it's telling you where it feels tension or pain. Starting to notice the difference between a challenging tension, which might be good, it might be giving you a bit of a stretch. Also being able to tell the difference between that and pain, which is your body saying, you're hurting me, or I'm feeling hurt, or I'm hurt right now. So sensing into that and then making a choice on how we can treat our bodies as well as possible. And then preparing to roll forward onto our bellies. So bringing that top hand onto the ground to steady ourselves and slowly, slowly rolling forward out of our pose. Ooh, gorgeous. Just noticing how it feels as you roll out, how the body responds. Maybe rolling that right shoulder out a little bit, bringing a bit of movement. Always moving like you love yourself. And even if you don't yet, maybe just pretending you do. Fake it till you make it. Okay. And then slowly making your way up into a sitting position. We're coming to the last few of our poses. So notice how the mind responds to that. Ooh, we're almost done. Yay, I can go have some coffee. So for this pose, you're going to need your block, you're going to need your bolster / pillow. Pop your block onto the ground with the long side sort of matching the length of the mat, and then bring your pillow to rest on top of your block. So you want the top of the pillow to be resting on the block. Super. You're going to come into a seated position with the base of your spine pressed against the bottom of the pillow. Your legs. So we're going to bring legs into butterfly pose. So the soles of the feet come to touch gently. You could use your towel and you can just kind of thread it underneath your legs like this. Or you can use 2 pillows and you can just bring them to rest or bring them to support your upper legs or your knees, depending on flexibility of your hips here. Elongating the spine. And then using the hands to walk yourself back and drape yourself over this lovely, lovely resting bolster. So you might find at the top of your shoulders, or near the top of the pillow, there should be enough space for your head to be resting on the pillow. So really you want the top of your head and sort of to have, you want your head to have something to rest on. So if your head's hanging over the bolster, just shuffling yourself a little way down. Allowing the shoulders to soften and fall away from the body. Your arms can come rest alongside the body with the backs of the hands resting on the ground. And then let everything just melt into the ground. It's a gentle heart opener pose. But it's also very softening and very soothing pose. So in times of intense emotion, when we feel like we're carrying a lot or we're being really activated, our nervous systems are being super activated, and you get to the end of the day and you feel really revved up or absolutely exhausted, and you may not even have done much, but perhaps you spend a lot of time on social media, or perhaps you've been looking a lot at the news and reading all about the stories and the sadness and the grief and the anger that's happening out in the world. And that can be very triggering. That can activate your nervous system, and that's very intense emotionally. It's like your emotion system is doing exercise. So if you're doing that the whole day, then it's like you're doing the whole day of exercise on your emotional system.
So it's normal that it's exhausting, or that it's tiring, or that you feel like you just need to rest, or that you feel sadness and grief yourself. So using this position to soothe and settle the nervous system, but to also make space for all those emotions that arise when we feel vulnerable. A sense of tenderness and sadness. Also a sense of hope though. A sense of wanting things to change or things to be better. Just allowing all of those to just rest there. Recognizing that they're there and acknowledging and accepting that they're there without trying to push them away or change them. But also not getting so caught up in them that we're rendered paralyzed by our emotions, or that our emotions dictate how we live our lives, how we act. Just taking this time to be soft and gentle with yourself. And then using the hands and the elbows to press into the ground, slowly lift yourself up once again into a seated position. Move the towel out of the way, or your blankets and pillows out the way so your legs are free. Bring your bolster across your mat. So you can move your block or your book out of the way. So you're bringing your bolster to the base of your spine, but this time in a sort of a horizontal way rather than a vertical way. And then you're going to stretch your legs out in front of you, if this is comfortable for you, or you can keep them in a bent position, like a pyramid position. And lean over your bolster, allowing your shoulders to rest towards the ground. So hopefully touching the ground or as close as possible. Your arms can be stretched out sideways, they can be in a cactus position. You can have your arms above your head. So playing around and see what feels right for your body, see what feels right for your shoulders. So creating this opening in the front of the body, an open stretch in the ribs and the belly and the pelvis. So whereas in the previous pose, we were opening the body sideways, so we're allowing the sides of the body to fall away from one another. So opening the front of the body, as if it was opening up like a book. This way we're creating lengthways, so we're stretching the body out from the top of the spine all the way to the base of the spine. So let's take a couple of moments of stillness here. Allowing the spine to passively stretch open, creating a bit of space between the vertebrae, opening up the front of the spine. Focusing in on the breath. Maybe noticing the points of contact with the floor as well. Noticing where you're grounded and steady, held by the solidness of the floor and the earth. But at the same time, how we're open, our hearts are open. The front of the body is opening and saying, we are ready to feel. Knowing that at any time during your practice or life, you can come back to the sense of groundedness, of steadiness, of contact with the floor. And then if your knees aren't already bent, bending your knees, bring the soles of the feet close to the base of the spine. And then press into the feet just to lift the hips up so that you can shift the pillow down towards the hips. And then rest the hips onto your pillow or onto your bolster. So make any adjustments you need to. And sort of just shift the back a little bit so that the shoulder blades are flat on the floor. Maybe you have to shuffle the shoulder blades towards one another. And then lift the knees and bring them into the chest, wrapping the hands around the knees, around the backs of the thighs. Just giving the knees a nice squeeze into the chest. Opening up the lower spine, creating some length, bringing spaciousness into the lower back. And then one at a time, extend those legs away from you, stretching them out nice and straight, and seeing if this is comfortable. Otherwise, bring a bend into the knees if need be. Noticing where you feel the openness this time. Perhaps openness in the front of the pelvis, in the hips. Maybe a little bit of ease on the lower back. And then raise the arms up towards the ceiling and wrap them around yourself. So bring opposite hands, or bring your hands to opposite shoulders so that your elbows are pointing up towards the ceiling, or at least are stacked up towards one another, or on top of one another. And really giving yourself a nice squeeze, feeling the opening of the back of the body, the space behind the shoulder blades and behind the collarbones, stretching open. And also giving yourself, using this opportunity to not just stretch, but also give yourself a comforting hug. So if you want, you could even close your eyes and pretend there was someone else giving you a hug. And if you notice thoughts, thinking, what am I doing? Is this weird? Am I doing it right? Just accepting that those thoughts are there and then letting them go. And rather focusing on the physical sensations that you're experiencing. Just bringing your gentle awareness onto the physical sensations arising. As you breathe in and out, can you invite that breath to breathe between the shoulder blades onto the space between your shoulder blades, maybe breathing into the ground, feeling feeling the upper back pressed into the ground. And as you breathe out, feeling the whole body melt a little further, letting the belly soften. And then releasing the arms, pressing feet into the floor to move this pillow a little further down. We're moving all the way down the body really, until it's resting underneath the knees. And we come to our final Shavasana pose. So bringing the backs of the hands to rest gently on the floor, the arms lengthened away from us, and the feet falling gently open away from each other. The shoulder blades tucked in towards one another, flat on the floor. The belly soft, the lower back gently open. Sensing into the openness of the front of the body, the softness in the chest, the softness of the shoulders falling away from each other. Bringing your attention to your face and your neck. Is your neck scrunched or is it long? Maybe needing a tuck of the chin to bring some more length into the neck. Noticing any areas in the face that might need some softening or some gentleness. Maybe softening in the jaw, softening in the forehead. And then bringing the attention to the breath as it moves in and out. As you breathe out, perhaps channeling all the air through the nose, a slow, steady stream of air flowing out of the nose, creating a long, slow out breath. Not rushing to breathe, not rushing to do anything. Not even rushing to be. Just allowing ourselves to be right here, right now, exactly as we are. And if you find your mind wandering, just bring it back to the breath. Just following the breath curiously as it moves in and out the body. Giving your body this time to strengthen the mind-body connection, to integrate the physical, the emotional, and the mental experience and learning that we've just had. And then slowly, coming into the most challenging part of this practice, moving out of the delicious Shavasana. Maybe bringing a bit of movement into the head first, so just moving the head from side to side. Very slowly feeling the movement of the vertebra and of the neck. And perhaps, if you can, keeping the eyes closed. Bringing the head to stillness and moving the fingers and toes. Bending the knees and removing the prop. And keeping the knees bent, let them gently fall over to the side, allowing the rest of your body to roll over onto your side as well. Coming back into our fetal pose, which is where we started. Taking a moment to acknowledge that we've given ourselves this time to be kind and gentle, to give ourselves the space to be overwhelmed and to feel tender, but also to find and connect with our own strength once again. Remembering that we cannot pour out of our cup if it is empty.
And maybe just dropping in some gratitude to ourselves, to our yoga practice, for bringing us this nourishing space where we can top up our cup again, connect us with our inner strength, and nourish and soothe our tenderness so that we can carry on going back out into the world and making the changes that need to be made so we can all live peacefully. And then pushing into your hands to lift yourself up into a seated position. And resting the hands on the lap. Focusing on the breath. Maybe bring the whole body into awareness, noticing how the body feels after our practice. If you have the time and you wish to continue with this practice or deepen this practice, please find my video on the rain meditation and follow up this practice with a rain meditation either directly after or maybe sometime later on in the day, or even tomorrow or later on in the week. Let's take 3 intentional breaths. So breathing in deep, sending that air all the way down into the belly, opening the chest, lengthening the spine, and then sigh it out. Nice and loud. If you're at home, probably no one's going to hear you. And if they do, well, they can't go anywhere, can they? Breathing in. And last one, in. Bringing the hands to prayer at the chest, recognizing that we've taken time to nourish ourselves, accepting that our practice was just as it was, and that there was beauty in that practice, whatever it looked like. Investigating how we feel right now, and physical sensations, emotional, mental sensations. And then reminding ourselves that our experience is not who we are. It is a part of what happens to us and what we experience, but it is not who we are. Knowing that finding this time and nurturing yourself is a way of really connecting to who you really are, to the love that you really hold inside of you, the love for yourself, the love for your community, the love for this whole beautiful, crazy world we live in. Before we go, just dropping in the question, what do you need now? What do you need now to look after yourself and to nourish yourself? And then perhaps once we get off our mat, maybe finding something to just to nourish ourselves and make ourselves feel cared for. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. As always, absolutely wonderful, so beautiful and so sacred to share our practice together. Namaste.